Let me know when it stops working completely. Not my malicious compliance, but one I witnessed. Worked for a company selling electrical control gear, and a specialist sales representative went to the managing director, MD, to say his mouse was malfunctioning intermittently and needs replacement. MD says, when it stops working completely, let me know and we'll replace it. Now, to give some context, we're talking about a $1,535 astronomical units item, and this guy generates $1 million plus in sales annually. The more astute reader will know what happens next. Sales representative looks the MD dead in the eye as if to say, well, if that's how you want to play it. Doesn't miss a beat and hurls the mouse at the hard floor violently so it disintegrates spectacularly. Yeah, it stopped working completely. I'll need a new mouse. Boss shocked, then with a look of resignation, I did that to myself. I had lots of experiences like this with the military's clothing department. One day I brought in a uniform because I was told by my higher-ups that it was too faded and I had to replace it. The storesman told me it was within regulations and I couldn't get a new one. Now, when your warrant officers or sergeant majors tell you to get something done, you get it done. So I turned around, took out my pocket knife, sliced it from neck to belly button, turned around and said, "Oh, I must have missed this giant cut in the uniform." Malicious? Yes. Compliance? Yes. Destroying company property? Yes. 10 out of 10 need more of this. I thought this was going a different direction. He would have to keep using the mouse, and would lose a lot of sales because of the mouse. Examines bits. Here's the problem. There was some dust wadded up in the sensor. Try it now. Reminds me of way back when phones had slide-out keyboards and a Verizon representative told me they wouldn't replace my insured phone because it can still make calls. So it's not broken, even though the entire screen was busted. When he handed it to me, I snapped the keyboard off and handed it right back. Left with a new phone. It took me a couple times to understand what resignation, I did that to myself, meant. This was fairly common at my last company, and my current apt complex. If something is barely working, you get no replacement. Our IT guys would even imply strongly that your item needs to be completely broken. Not everyone figured it out, but I did. It's called percussive maintenance or destructive function testing, and it's a valid service tool. I rarely use it, but it is still valid on occasion. I worked at a startup that was transitioning into a small business, but the original IT guy could not shift his mindset. He would fix keyboards and mice. None of them were really fixed though. It got so people would come to me. I would hand them a new one and have to stomp the old one to bits. If I tosses out an intermittent network cable, I would have to cut the ends off of it. His real coup though was we had a disk fail in one of our big servers and it took it down. He spent half a day finding the bad sector and mapping it out. It died again a few days later and he did the same thing. It died a couple of weeks later and he was on vacation, so I got a new disk and replaced it. I also smashed the old one to bits. And sure enough, he was hot to find out what happened to it as he wanted it for another server. URG. This reminds me of an episode of MASH when Margaret tried to get her footlocker replaced and ICORP won't do it unless it has been damaged in combat. She borrows Major Winchester's rifle and shoots it. I believe she got a replacement. I had a sysadmin do this with his laptop. Asked for a new laptop cause the current one was old and lost him an enormous amount of time. Manager said no, unless the laptop would not work. Sysadmin lifted the laptop and let it slip out of his hands into a million pieces. Being a sysadmin, he had a backup, of course. He got his new laptop and an award the next year for being the most productive sysadmin. Please define abbreviations the first time you use them. It took me 2 read-throughs to parse that MD here means managing director, not medical doctor. The boss was shocked then, with resignation, exclaimed, "I did that to myself. IFIFY. I assumed the sales guy was going to lose $1 million in generated sales because of a faulty mouse. Since he couldn't work his computer easily without one. The actual outcome I did not expect." 911 What's your emergency? Quote, "My friend and I were walking through the woods when he just collapsed. I think he died." A man responds. He is very nervous. "Okay, calm down. First, make sure he's dead." The operator replies. There's a silence on the phone. Then, there's a gunshot. The man then says, "Okay, now what?" Quote, reminds me of when I got my first cell phone in the early 2000s. The salesperson happened to be a girl I was friendly with in high school. She was telling me that if the phone stopped working, I could bring it in and they'd replace it for free. Then she leaned in and whispered, "Just run over it with your car as soon whenever you want a new one, they won't have a choice." The less violent method, scissors and cord. Or for more modern setups, USB dongle and window. This provides some sense of why the guy generates so much in sales. I had to do this with a cell phone once. The Wi-Fi on it broke. But because the phone still worked, the replacement coverage wanted to make me send it in for a warranty repair, taking weeks instead of sending a replacement like they should. A hammer fixed that problem. We had a janky ladder at my company. I warned it wasn't safe and needed to be replaced. Management ignored me. Next time I saw it, I threw it into the trash compactor, walked right to the foreman, and said I broke the ladder all the way, and told him exactly how it broke all the way.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.